Hey everyone, SBPhilos4 here, back with another episode of the RePHIL Studio. As always, get your cans ready. We're going to refill to 99 as we always do, and we're ready for the next set. This episode, we have a special feature where our special guest in the later in the episode is going to be Lucia Hunter, who is our Bang Dream community manager. So he's going to be answering a lot of common questions that many of you might have about the game. So definitely stick around to the special guest feature. Of course, before we begin and go to that feature, we're going to talk about the usual franchise updates and all the other fun stuff that we usually do at the beginning. So let's first get right into it with this episode and start talking about some updates around JPdori. So, of course, JPdori, we are finally at the Morphonica collaboration. I actually made a video about that, and it's already starting at the time of this recording. It is a collaboration with the time I got reincarnated as a slime, or Tensura for short. So, Morphonica's collab is the last collab, or essentially the last band to have a collab with another franchise. We actually have a collab for every other band, starting off with, of course, Afterglow collabing with Persona. Then we had Roselia with ReZero, and then there's a bunch of other collabs, like for instance Hello Happy World with Ojamajo, Pasta Palettes with Zombieland Saga. We also had, I'm just trying to remember the rest of them here. Poppin' Party had Railgun, of course, and then of course Razor Suilin had the Tokyo Revenger. So every band has now had a collab, and it's actually lining up pretty well with like a lot of things. Like for instance, we are already all 7 bands have an extra song. All 7 bands have a artist tie-up, and it's kind of leading towards like the end of the year and going into the 6th year anniversary. So, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more collab news in the future. So maybe Poppin' Party or Roselia or the other bands will have a chance to collab with another franchise after the 6th anniversary hits. But again, we'll see how it goes. Again, it's sort of kind of wrapping things up, and I'm not sure if you guys have any particular opinions on what collab you enjoyed the most out of the 7 that we've had. Again, based on personal preference myself, the Persona one was just like really like out there, and it was like, it definitely gave a pretty lasting impression. So I definitely do have some bias on the Persona one, although out of all the other animes and other franchises they collabed with, the only one I'm really too familiar with other than Persona is the ReZero, so a little bit of bias there. I also thought that was a pretty good collab overall, but maybe in the comments below, let me know what you think about what collab you were most excited about out of the 7. Out of the 7 that you which one you found you enjoyed the most and why. Definitely let me know in the comments below. Yeah. So basically, with the fact that this Tensura collab is now on, and again, if you want more information about that, I made a video on my channel, so feel free to check it out. I'll probably link a card up there somewhere, and you'll get a chance to look at it. But basically, with the Tensura collab, and the fact that the Garpa Station live stream didn't really announce any other new cover songs other than the 2 that are for this collab, that does mean that the next couple of events, at least until the next Garpa live station, are going to be full bands. And again, for those who are like maybe unaware, basically if it's going to be a full band event, it's always going to be the original song that comes with it. And if it's a mixed event, so i.e. Characters that are mixed from different bands and come together in an event, it's always going to be a cover song that's sort of like the event song. So the fact that they haven't mentioned or revealed any new covers means that most likely we will still have a couple of full bands for the next while. The band that's actually due for a event very soon is Roselia. So it's been, let me do the count here. It's about 10 events ago. Time flies for sure. Since the last full Roselia event. So Roselia is due for one. And in terms of who would be featured on the banner, I do believe Yukina and Rinko are both overdue. So it's going to be probably one of those 2. If I were to lean towards someone, my gut feeling says Yukina, but it could also be Rinko. Who knows? Because Yukina hasn't been on a banner for a while, and all the other 4 Roselia characters have been on banners for a while. But we'll see. We'll see if I'm wrong or not. But yeah, Roselia should be the next event. And it's closer to it's going to be like November-ish. So I don't know what kind of theme it'd be, but it'll be very interesting to see. The other band that's actually kind of overdue is Past the Palettes. Now, I'm not sure how Past the Palettes will work. And I really don't know if Past the Palettes will actually have an event relatively soon. Not necessarily because they haven't pre-planned it, but this kind of leads to another topic about one of the voice actresses as part of Past the Palettes, which is Maeshima Ami, who's the voice actress of Aya. One thing I want to just mention is that in the previous event, which was School Excursion for Hanaoka Academy, there was a cover song that was going to be released as part of that event, which was Dakara Hitori Janai, which is one of the ending themes to My Hero Academia. And that was covered by Past the Palettes, but they actually did not add that song into the game. They said that they're just going to add it at a later time, which is a bit concerning because this is not the first time that has happened to a Past the Palettes song. For another event, which was That Day, That Song, they actually delayed the Akogare Across song as well. And they added it to the game a little bit later. Ironically, in the other School Excursion event featuring Hanasaki Gawa. So the fact that Amita has a little bit of a history of, missing out on recordings, and she has been a bit MIA for the past while, I am a little bit worried. I really hope it's anything serious, but all I have to do, and I'm not gonna speculate too much about this, but I just hope and pray that everything's okay on her side. Again, she has been a bit MIA on social media as well, but I hope everything's okay with Amita. She's definitely one of my favorite voice actresses in Bang Dreams. So, just best wishes for her. Hopefully it's just happy news. Maybe it's having some other things on the side that she's working on. But overall, again, I'm just want to share my thoughts here and just share that news to everyone, because again, it may not be something as much of a discussion that people may have really thought about, but I just want to bring that up because again, I just want to shed some light on some of the things that are going on, especially again, the fact that an event song has been delayed for the second time for Past the Palettes. Again, I am a little bit worried about that, but again, hopefully it's not anything too serious, and all the best to Amita. Now, this also leads to the thing that whether or not she will appear in the Bang Dreams special live. So for those who aren't aware, of course, Viva La Live, which was an event that was supposed to happen in 2020, was a sort of celebration for Bang Dream where all 7 bands would come together and rejoice and celebrate. Now that, of course, because of the pandemic, that got delayed. And now the news date is going to be November 14th, or not 14th, the weekend of November 11th. Should be around November 12th in Japan, for Japan. So that event has finally been rescheduled, and presumably, again, all 7 bands should be there. So again, fingers crossed Amita will show up. We'll see how that goes. This will be the first time I think that all 7 should appear at the same time, which is really exciting. And again, it's a celebration that's overdue for about 2 years. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And the reason why I'm looking forward to that is because for our overseas viewers, there is the opportunity for you to actually buy tickets to watch it virtually. It is going to be happening live in Japan, but there's an opportunity for overseas viewers to actually see it virtually. And there's actually a site, like an official site for you to buy the tickets and such. I've actually already bought the tickets and I'm really looking forward to it. The only issue is that the concert is happening at the same time I'm at an anime convention, so I'm not sure if I really have the time to watch it, but what I hope to do is to have a recording of the concert and share it with server members on a specific date sometime in November. Probably won't be on the exact weekend that people watch it, but it'll be probably sometime in the future. So again, if you are interested in watching, feel free to join the Young Academy Discord server. Again, links in the description below if you want to, or if you want to learn more about getting a ticket yourself. Again, I'll leave some links in the description below as well. So again, this is a big celebration to have all 7 bands come together and perform at the same time. I'm definitely really, really looking forward to it, especially because it has been a while since I've watched a Bang Dream live. I think the last live I watched was maybe around this time last year. I haven't had the chance to watch too much I guess online records because there wasn't really too much available. This is like the first time in a while where they kind of gave the opportunity for overseas viewers to watch it. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So I think this will be something that will be a lot of fun. Especially we'll have a lot of people, I believe, in the server that's going to watch with me. So just gonna keep everyone posted in the server on when the viewing is going to be. So again, if you're interested, feel free to join in, and hope to see you there. So one other thing I do want to mention, and I just want to, give a big shout out to myself. I know in the previous RePHIL Studio episode, I mentioned how the cover collection was well overdue, and there should be an announcement on a new cover collection very soon. Now, of course, as I said that, a cover collection was indeed sort of announced. I think about like a week after I made a mention about that. And indeed, the cover collection is revealed, and they actually already revealed all the songs. Usually, they spend a bit of time on waiting on when to reveal the songs, but they've actually just revealed it flat out for us, which is quite nice for sure. So for those again who are unaware about the cover collection, I will just mention what the songs are going to be and when is it going to be released. First of all, volume 7 of the cover collection is going to be released on December 14th, and it's going to feature 14 songs. With Poppin' Party, we have Vampire and Kaibutsu. So those are really good songs there. I don't work for Bushiroad, guys. I don't. That's Lucia Hunter. Lucia will come a bit later in this episode. So Vampire and Kaibutsu. So Deco 27 and the Yoasobi, the Beastars opening. Afterglow, we have Mental Chainsaw and Abnormalize. So Mental Chainsaw is Kairiki Bear, and Abnormalize is the Psychopaths opening, I believe. Past the Palace, we have Haru Otsugeru from Yama, and Sparkling Daydream, which is a song by Zack, and it's the opening to the, I believe, Chunibyo. Rosalia, we have Realize, which is the ReZero second season opening by Konami Suzuki, and Preserve Roses, featuring, of course, Rosalia and Ron. And this, I believe, is it's a Nana Mizuki song in TM Revolution. Nichijou opening for Hello Happy World, Hyadai no Jojo Yujo, as well as Si Vous Président from Hello Happy World and Aya and Mashiro. Colorful Box, which is Shirobaka opening for Morphonica, as well as Unravel, which again I mentioned in the previous episode. Unravel is the one that I did speculate that would be in the cover collection. And for Raise the Ceiling, you have Crybaby, which is part of the Tokyo Revengers collab, as well as Mikizune, which is from, of course, everyone's favorite. So yeah, I did ask a few of my server members on what their favorite or what song they're most looking forward to, and I'll put it on the right side there, so you could see some of the songs that our server members are looking forward to. I'll also read some of the YouTube comments that we have here. We have Mikizune, Kaibutsu, Unravel, and Crybaby, as well as Realize. So a lot of songs that people are excited for. I think out of all of them myself, I'm personally most looking forward to Unravel. Again, the fact that they've already performed it live, I haven't had a chance to hear it. I think Unravel will be really interesting to hear live. Or sorry, not live, full. I'm also pretty interested about Kaibutsu, honestly. I think Kaibutsu would be a pretty interesting cover to listen to. And if I were to give a third one, probably Si Vous Président. I think that one's actually like, I mean, the song just recently got added into ENdori, and I do quite like it quite a bit. One also thing to note about this cover collection is that you can notice that a lot of the songs are like sort of relatively recent, or they were kind of part of a special occasion, right? So some of these came during the 0.5 year anniversary, some of these songs. Others came because of collaborations like Hyadai no Jojo Yujo, as well as Crybaby. They're all sort of like, they all have a special kind of occasion to the song. So, if you're like maybe someone who's like waiting for songs like maybe you're waiting for songs like Kuchisuke Diamond, which is part of the 0.5 year anniversary setup, or maybe you're looking forward to another song like Goodbye Sengen. That could happen in Volume 8. Now, again, the volume collections or the cover collections have been coming a little slower than expected, so who knows when the next one's going to be, but that's going to be pretty interesting again. So again, if you have if you have any suggestions below, or maybe you have some thoughts about the cover collection, feel free to let me know. And of course, what songs you're most looking forward to. All right. So, yeah, exactly. Right. Because again, I think one thing about the cover collection as well, this also confirms that they've basically already recorded the full versions when they add them to the game, right? Because again, as I mentioned previously in the episode, Amita's a little bit MIA right now, but yet her 2 songs are going to be added in the cover collection, Haru wa Tsugeru and Sparkling Daydream, right? So Sparkling Daydream, I think we already had the full version, and then Haru wa Tsugeru is relatively new. So the fact that that's still going to be in the cover collection means that they probably recorded the full versions a lot earlier. It's just that we don't really release it until later. So yeah, so we'll see how it goes with the cover collection. But again, I'll probably give a listen on stream at one point once they're released, and of course I'll share my opinions as I always do. All right, so I think we're pretty much wrapping up here in terms of the sort of first half of this episode here. Just before we go, as always, I always want to share the top 3 and just kind of give some shout outs to those who recently tiered in ENdori events for this past month in October. So there were 3 events that happened. There's one that's actually going to end relatively soon, but that will happen in the next episode. I'll give shout outs to you there. But in terms of the October events, we've had 3 as well. First of all, we have Snow Rose. So it's the Christmas Rosalia event. Big congratulations to Nebi for taking first place. So Nebi, again, a former podcast guest, actually one of our first few guests here on the RePHIL studio. So they got their first, their second T1 in a very, very long time. So congratulations to Nebi. Fluffy and Tyron rounds up the top 2 and top 3. So big congratulations to both of you. Both of them are pretty heavy Rosalia fans. It's not their first time on this stage, but again, big congrats to both of you and all 3 of you for doing so well in the Snow Rose event. It was a competitive event. Fluffy and Nebi were competing for T1, but Nebi came out on top near the very end. So good stuff to Nebi. And the next event was I'm Not That Kind of Person, another competitive event. This time it was featuring Lilith and Davy Cat. Davy Cat, again, a very recent guest in the podcast. When he mentioned that, he was going to tier an event very soon, it was literally this event. But Lilith did get first place. I believe this is his first time getting first place. So big congrats to Lilith. There have been a few attempts. I saw Lilith try to get T1. Hasn't happened. So the fact that T1 happened here, big shout outs to them there. Davey does settle for second place, and rounding out third place, we have none other than Kevs. Not surprising there. Kevs is always in the lurk. Whenever there's an event that he could tier, he'll always go for it. So big shout outs to Kevs there. And lastly, for the Razor Suitland Band Story 3, Kuruskate DNA. Big congratulations to Riley for getting first place. Again, Riley, a relatively recent podcast guest as well. They didn't really mention Kuruskate DNA during the episode too much, but last minute, they kind of decided we're going to go for T1, and that has happened right there. So big congrats to Riley there. Rounding out the top 3, we have Quapsel as well as Hana. I believe both of these individuals have tiered Razor Suitland events before. Nothing too new there. Again, it is a smaller niche community for Razor Suitland tiers, but again, congratulations to to all 3 of you for your amazing achievements in the event. And again, right now, the current event that's going to be ending in a few days. By the time you listen to this episode, it might already have ended, but I'll share the results for this event once that time comes. And of course, that is going to be the singing contest. So the New Year's event in October. Now, again, some people might be like, oh, New Year's in October. Not a lot of fun, but you know what? you know what? That's how it is. With New Year's and the speed up. And to be honest, after you hear what Lucia Hunter has to say in the podcast guest special feature, you might think that the speed up might be a good idea. So who knows? Your opinions might change. So again, we'll move on to the other side of the studio. We'll be talking with Lucia Hunter. This is a pre-recording from a panel I've done, a question and answer period with Lucia Hunter in person at Northwest Idolfest in Seattle. It was done around last week at the time of this recording. So definitely check that out. It was honestly a very informative Q&A panel. I've definitely learned a lot from the questions I've asked. So hope you all enjoyed that. So let's get right into the other side. Hey everyone, it's Phil here. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. As a reminder, the RePHIL Studio podcast is available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And when you're there, feel free to give comments, leave a high rating. All that support is greatly appreciated. Now that the RePHIL Studio podcast is having a less frequent upload schedule, this will encourage you to hopefully join the Anga Academy Discord server. Links in the description below, so you're up to date on when the live recordings on the podcast are happening and when the next episode will be. Of course, in the live recordings, you can contribute to the discussion, including to the studio question, and of course, interact with special guests featured on this podcast. So hope to see you there. Now, big shout outs to our Filler Nation members. So you guys always get shout outs there. They've been constantly supporting me on my content. So greatly appreciate you guys. And if you want a chance to join the Filler Nation as well, feel free to either subscribe to my Twitch channel where I stream quite often. I also have a Patreon, links in the description below. And of course, if you're on YouTube, you can just give a quick super thanks. All that support, of course, is greatly appreciated and it means a lot to me. So thank you all so much for listening to RePHIL Studio. The episode will resume shortly. Let's get right into it, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is SB Philos 4 here. Call me Phil for short. Welcome to the Q&A panel featuring Lucia Hunter as our special guest for Northwest Idolfest 2022. So this Q&A panel, again, usual stuff. We'll be asking questions to Lucia. I have a few questions to start things off as introduction. And anyone else who wants to ask a question, feel free to come up or just shout out your question. You may notice another intricate system on this side here. This is the reason why is because this is also going to be recorded as part of my podcast series called the RePHIL Studio. I have a podcast for Bang Dream in particular, and it's going to be uploaded on YouTube at the end of the month. So if you want to check it out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well. So yeah, and of course, I think we have some of our Discord server members also joining in as well. I'll just quickly check with them. Just seeing here. I don't think we have it live. Okay, well, I'll just have it here, just checked here. And I'm just going to make sure it's recording as well. Looks good. All right, so let's begin. So again, welcome to the Pacific Northwest, I believe for the first time.
I've been in Seattle about 5 years ago for a different Bushiroad thing. I think it was a Dragonborn tour. So we went to Seattle, then across Canada. But touring Seattle for the first time? Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, regardless, welcome to our coordinator here, our social media manager for Bang Dream and D4DJ, our EN server, Lucia Hunter, all the way coming from Singapore. So welcome.
Thank you. Really glad to be here.
I actually should have brought my own. I have a Sioneser that's exactly the same, except mine's is a little bit like the bow tie's a little bit kind of fallen off.
Oh.
So I could definitely tell if it's mine, but yeah, that's the unfortunate part. But again, welcome, Lucia. It's great to have you. So again, this is a Q&A panel, so this will be a point for everyone to ask questions if you want. I'm going to start off with a few questions myself, just kind of get a warm up, an introduction, and again, if anyone wants to hop in and ask any questions at some point, let me know. So first of all, Lucia, again, because you work for Bushiroad, but before even that happened, right? Before working in Bushiroad, what first got you into Bushiroad, like as a franchise as a whole? Like, how did you first start being a fan of Bushiroad? Like, what is your first franchise and all that?
Okay, so my first franchise would be Love Live. That was back in 2013. So the launch of the Love Live Spoiler Festival game, that was what really first got me into all these things. So I was playing on a Japanese server at the time, and then after like a few years of being there, I started working on the Love Live Wiki. So that was like my major involvement as a fan, I guess. I ran the Wiki, like updating a lot of translations and stuff. And then from there, I wanted to build the Wiki Twitter as well. So that was one of my bigger achievements, I guess. Took it from like 700 plus followers to over 30,000. Then from there, I did apply to intern at Bushiroad. So I think it was summer of 2016. So I was still a student back then, back in university. So I applied to do an internship because it's highly competitive in Singapore. Everyone needs to have like internships or summer courses to sort of get a job after they graduate. So at that time, I was like panicking, like I don't know what I want to do. But I was like, well, I'm a weeb. I like to play these games, right? And they have an office in Singapore, so just apply and see where it goes. So I interned with them for a month. I worked on Tower Expo Singapore. I think it was the second one back in Singapore back then. So that was like my first experience with event management, and I realized I really kind of liked it as well. So even back then in my university, I was also doing this sort of thing in my clubs as well.
I see.
So from there, a year later, when I graduated, Bushiroad, they did reach out to me, asked me if I wanted to join full time because they're also kind of like transitioning through a growth phase as well. So I took the offer and then I joined Bushiroad officially in 2017.
I see. I was just gonna ask, like, how did you suddenly get employed by Bushiroad? Because, like, from being a fan to an actual, working for a company that you really, I guess, you have some thoughts and fun favorites about. So it's really interesting that you're able to get that opportunity to become actually employed, during an internship, and then eventually get fully sort of installed into Bushiroad here. So before I want to talk a little bit more, maybe a bit more about your work, I want to ask the sort of, I guess, the question that a lot of people have in mind in terms of like Bushiroad as a whole, like in terms of the franchise as a whole. Is there like a particular favorite character you have, or favorite like unit, and also favorite Seiyu as well? There's a bit here.
Obviously,
okay.
Sayo, right?
Sayo, yeah.
It's been the longest time. I think I first really got into Bang Dream when it was handling when we launched the English version. So from there, I guess Sayo really spoke to me as a character. So I fell in love with her, wanted to support their unit's activities. So as for Seiyu wise, actually I'm more a favorite of Aiba Aina. Yeah. So they're in the same unit, right? So it kind of works out for me as well. So I tend to try and go for Rosella live if possible.
Yeah, for sure. No, honestly, it's so funny because I feel like I know a lot of Sayo fans out there who their favorite Seiyu is I myself included. Like even though we love, Kudoharu is great. She's great, but there's something about Aiba Aina that hits a bit different. So yeah, that's definitely fair. So yeah, that's a pretty good question there. So when you first got into the internship and eventually got employed into Bushiroad, right? How did they decide that you were going to be part of the EN community, like managing the community? Because you then mentioned how Bang Dream launched. So I guess you were sort of immediately implemented on its beginnings when it got into ENdori, or how did that work?
Okay, so at the time my main job was actually still events. Yeah, I'm very confused because I did sales as well, but moved into events. I think my main job was still events at the time. So what happened was we launched a new mobile department. We created a whole new department just for this, and then they were working on the game, and I wasn't on the project at the start. So I only came on the project a little bit, a month or two in, because I was getting really involved in the game and I was kind of well known within the community. So the community would ask me about things and I would be able to answer those questions as well. And then from there, Bushiroad sort of took notice that I was already kind of actively involved in this, so they decided to make it part of my official job scope as well.
Okay, well that's really cool, especially again, just having someone who is really has an understanding of the community and have a direct contact for our fans. It's definitely, I think, something that we maybe take for granted as Bandori fans and D4DJ fans, because I know for certain I have some people who are into Project Sekai, and when they try to get a hold of someone, it's just, you can't, right? It's impossible.
It's
right?
More difficult for certain projects, I would say, especially a larger company ones, because
exactly,
a lot of practices in Japan are very different. So even back in 2018, it's not a very common thing to have community discords, official discords. Exactly. So there's kind of something that we did that was kind of pioneering as well back then.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some of the day-to-day duties? What do you do on a typical day in Bushiroad headquarters?
Okay, so my main job scope is still effectively events and licensing. So events-wise, I would sort of look out for events that we want to attend. So I'll reach out to them and negotiate prices for the floor, how much they charge us and stuff. Then if guests get involved, then I have to sort of contact Japan and ask them, are they interested in sending a guest? Then take care of the guest flight arrangements, take care of the stage plans, like presentations, make everything, the scripts. So there's a lot to prepare usually for that. But that, thankfully, con season in North America usually is about summer season usually. It doesn't get on for much of that. So rest of the year I'm relatively free. Usually from January to April, maybe it's more of a lax period for me.
Okay.
So that's usually when I focus more on my other duties. So from there, my other job scope is community management, right? So I kind of focus more during that period because more free time on my hands.
Yeah.
So community management wise, I get paid to shit post on Discord. Just effectively that, just make sure that players are still happy with the game. I check in, I try to read all the backlog, but it's kind of impossible sometimes. But I just try to make sure that everything's going smoothly. Usually the mods will keep an eye for me and sort of ping me if there's anything going wrong.
Yeah.
So that's really grateful to all the mods who put in all the time to really manage all the things for me.
So the mods in the official Bangreen server.
Yeah.
So shout outs to people like Yvette's and Houdini Owls. You might be listening right now. There you go. Yeah. Anyway. So that's really cool. That's honestly really cool. And Lucia, one thing you mentioned is that you work with guests, right? So obviously this is your first time being a guest yourself,
yes.
right? In a con. But how is it working with guests when you're actually hosting these cons? I'm guessing when you're working with guests, you're working with maybe some of your favorite Seiyu, maybe in the franchise. So how does that work? How's that experience?
I guess the most memorable experience here would be Man Anime Festival Melbourne back in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So the guest for that year was Aiba Aina.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, she's my favorite Seiyu. So managed to get her down. Then it was kind of amazing. I mean, because that con was also very well run. The con organizers really took care of us very well. They treat us very well. We had our local TCP distributor, the trading card game site, also treat us to everything as well. And so yeah, it's kind of funny. Just me and her and the manager and then someone else from the Japan office, and we just went around having dinners every night.
I'm so jealous. I'm actually so jealous. Oh, if only I lived in Singapore and applied for an intern like Lucia did. Oh my goodness. I'm actually so jealous. A dinner with Aiba Aina. What a dream.
Yeah,
anyway.
but I mean, okay. But frankly speaking, that is still a very professional gag. You be very careful with these things because, the moment they see you not acting professional, right, that's a serious problem. So you have to sort of add additional layers of security, just to be sure that you're not overstepping any boundaries.
For sure.
Because the career's at stake.
I would be a mess. I would be an emotional mess if I had to speak with Aiba Aina herself. But that's just how it is. So far, how are you feeling? Because again, I know you've been to a few international cons. I believe you've been here in AX before, or AX and other bigger cons. So what would you say is the difference between cons outside of Singapore versus or outside of Asia compared to cons in Asia? Do you see any differences or?
Oh, so for North American cons, between North American cons and Asian cons, right?
Yeah.
Asian cons are very industry led.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because obviously the industry is there in the first place, so they're starting to the direct audience.
Yeah.
So the companies come together, make their stuff. But when it comes to North American cons, right, because in the history is that there wasn't a lot of content coming over from Asia. So fans usually had to take the charge, take the lead in making these things.
Mm-hmm.
So things like what we're doing now, panels, they're completely an unknown concept in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have fan-led panels. No one's gonna pay to attend those. Everyone just wants to see what the industry, what the companies are sharing instead.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see how fans come together to make content for other fans, and then it's just new to me as well, experiencing all this.
Yeah, Northwest Idolfest is definitely quite different. Where it's fans making this con for fans, so it's definitely very different. A lot more small scale, but it definitely has a nice family vibe to it. And
definitely,
of course, we appreciate having you all of course, flying all the way from Singapore to come here. That's a huge flight, and you came here and the weather unfortunately wasn't very friendly to you. Singapore was 30 something, 20 something, 30 something
average
degrees.
is 30 degrees Celsius all year round.
Yeah.
Today is what, 9?
9 degrees, 9 degrees with heavy rain. It's that's welcome to the Pacific Northwest here. Again, we never had rain in months. And then once you come, they're okay, bring the rain for Lucia. All right. All right, so I think that's enough introductory questions for me. Otherwise I will go on forever, so I have to stop myself at some point. So does anyone have any particular questions they want to ask? If not, then of course I'll continue through my set of questions. But so far, does anyone have any other questions they want to ask? Yes?
How is character popularity looked at in management and development?
I guess we were talking about this right before the panel, but does character popularity, do you think it affects who gets banners, who gets events, who's paired with who on the banners? would they pair a popular character with a less popular character on purpose?
So for that would be something that the Japanese devs would be more familiar on. But I would say definitely, obviously, the data, they definitely do analyze the data because they do ask everyone who's their favorite character and stuff. As for how much influence it has, right? Definitely there will be some influence. But I do think that comics writers, right, are generally more, they do write what they want to write, They are very focused on the story. I think that's just they have a very strong commitment to the story and how to develop the characters in new ways that the fans haven't seen before. So although you have the certain set pairings that you always see together, they try and explore outside of that and bring the characters into new interactions to see how they can bounce off each other and create new facets of the characters you haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's like a chart. People like sort of track.
Yeah.
So like a chart of like this character interacted with this character before, and then you might have a similar thing where it's like, okay, well maybe these two characters have interacted yet, and then just kind of let's see if we could make an event or something.
Yeah, I think definitely comics writers, they do take a lot of notice on that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. Well, that's a good question. Any other questions? All right, I'll keep going with my set of questions. We also have some questions from the Discord server as well that I host. So again, if you are listening from Discord, if you have any questions, feel free to ask as well. My question is related to, because again, you do licensing. My question is about delayed viewings because it's been a long time since we had delayed viewings, and I would love to have delayed viewings back. So, right? I think a lot of people would. It's been a while. Obviously, with COVID, is definitely affected a lot of things here. But any updates on when we could maybe see delayed viewings again?
It's funny you're asking that because the guy responsible for them is also in the room, but it's not me. So at the start, right, what happened was I really wanted to bring viewing to Singapore and to other countries as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with that was that it just wasn't very financially stable because you need to rent out theaters, you need to do all this processing work on creating the video data, right? It actually was quite costly. So we wanted to also distribute across North America, and that was like a whole different kind of worms that we couldn't really understand. But luckily my friend over there, Eric, he actually created a whole new company to support me on this, to do distribution across the whole of North America.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that, COVID hit, that sort of put a huge break in our tracks, And then from there, we are still looking into it, but I think, with COVID, we do start looking into different alternatives now, There's a lot of this delayed online viewings that are accessible across to most of the world. So I think from there, that might be the new direction we're doing, online as opposed to in cinemas. Although I do know that obviously the experience is fundamentally different, getting together with fans and cheering together, but
definitely.
But the whole cinema issue was just not that easy to settle.
I can imagine that, right? Like again, you have to work with a bunch of different other parties,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like to work on that, and cinema experience is really nice. I don't know if anyone has done a delayed viewing inside a cinema experience. Like the tigers are pretty crazy, and then like the staff, right? The staff in the cinemas, they're like, oh, photography is not allowed in movies, but they see us and they're like, what the heck's going on? And they're filming us, like doing all the fun stuff. But yeah, I could definitely agree though that like online, like the online streaming platform does make a lot of sense because just make it more accessible for them. There's going to be one for ENdori 2022,
Yes,
TV Live in November, so make sure to check that out. So yeah, that's good to hear though. But we'll see how that develops. So maybe I'll talk a little bit more with your friend in the back there, see if there's any other plans that we could do. So I think kind of building a little bit more, because you mentioned how you want to build on other countries. I believe people on my Discord server, they're pretty international, right? We have people from Malaysia, we have people from Russia, we have people from like Europe as well. Like I imagine plans there might be a little bit difficult. I know, especially our European fans, it's a bit tough because you don't know how much interest is really out there, eh?
And Europe, especially as a region, is kind of difficult for us because it's kind of spread out. Because across the whole EU, obviously, if there's any area we're looking at, I think it would either be Germany or France for all of our fans. But at the same time, reaching in those areas can be a little bit difficult price-wise as well. So it all comes to like different issues. How much can we reach out to our fans that are there to make a significant portion of our fan base. Because technically speaking, I feel like in the end, North America is still going to be our main market base. So even though we do want to reach out to new areas, like even Canada, for example. Eventually when we expand enough, definitely it's something we are looking into, and we'll see how the future goes.
I I think we have a pretty strong base in Canada, but obviously me being from Canada, I'm a little biased. So maybe I'm just loud, and I feel like that's the reason why we have more presence. I don't know. Anyway, any questions from anyone else here before I continue on the pile on the questions? I know a lot of the questions, like maybe you've already answered in Lucia's previous panel yesterday, but...
I had questions before I came here and I don't remember them now.
All right, well, maybe I'll blabber a bit more, and then if you remember, I'll ask. So the next question I have, and I know you've probably spoke about this in the panel yesterday, but I wasn't there, so I'm going to ask this again, and also for our listeners as well. The ENdori, like the situation with ENdori, right, and the fact that in September of last year they decided to sort of accelerate the schedule, and events are now like 5 days, 6 days average, obviously except for a few when it's like on a weekend, it'll be 8 days. So as a fan perspective, we have our own unique perspective on our opinions on the speed up. But what about management side? Like what is the reasoning behind the speed up?
Okay, so there are two main reasons. One is more business side, one is more personal to me.
Mm-hmm.
So the business reason, right? I'm gonna ask you, like, do you remember what you had for lunch last week?
Probably not.
Yeah. Did you remember what you had for lunch yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah. See, so the thing is, right, when you do development work, eventually your devs need to sort of cross consult each other on what they certain parts of the code and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your English devs are consulting your Japanese devs what they did last year, that can be kind of difficult sometimes. The Japanese devs might not even be with the company anymore. No, but if your gap is shorter, then the sort of communication barrier is a little bit more easier. At the same time, like recently, you had issues where Google and Apple they sort of say, we want this change now. You need to add this into the game now. So Japan side adds a feature into the game, 1 year ahead of us. They're adding it now, but that game version is 1 year ahead. So now we also have to grab that same change and add it into the current version. And that can get very complicated, therefore, there's a lot more chances of things to break as opposed to your game being closer in versions.
Yeah.
Then there's also a consideration where,
personally?
the other part of this business side is also, fans are always asking for us to add new features, right? They're always asking, like, when can we have this feature from Japan earlier, But the thing is, unless you run the events ahead faster, you can't move the features forward because that breaks the game. I'm not sure if you guys might remember, but just a few months ago, there was this issue where the game went down for players who took part in a certain event, and then they couldn't rejoin the game, they couldn't get back into the game for a while. It was actually because, we moved the game version ahead. And then the game version changed that specific event type, the data for that specific event type. So everyone who took part in that event couldn't log in.
Oh boy.
Until the next event banner came up. So this is the kind of issue that it's very hard to account for all these very minor changes that can break the game.
For sure.
So unless you move the event schedule and the features together, right, it's a lot harder to make sure the game doesn't break every single time.
Yeah. I think from like a fan perspective, you might think, oh, just put a feature and put it earlier, right? But it doesn't seem like it's as easy as that.
Yeah.
Like how it is. Okay, well, that definitely makes sense, and I know a lot of people had a lot of questions about that. And we're not sure exactly when the speed up will continue to maybe stop at some point, or maybe it'll just keep happening forever. So
So the other reasoning was also that eventually I felt that even though the Japanese version is doing very well now, but eventually the game has to close down sooner or later, right? 9 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's say the English version is still running at a time, right? Do you really want to be like 1 year behind them? Because if their game closes, we also close immediately, right? Because no one's going to keep spending on the game that's going to close.
Yeah.
So that means you're going to lose out 1 whole year of content that you never got to experience. So for me, I just sort of wanted to bring the gap as close as possible, so you don't miss out as much. The fan translators can finish up the rest, can all witness the end of the story together.
For sure. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think in that perspective, and maybe for those who are listening, that they'll maybe get a better understanding there. Good. Any questions?
I remember. Are there any other mobile games that you would want to work on outside of Bushiroad? Any games you're interested in?
That's an interesting one. Yeah? I mean, personally speaking, I'm only working on a few other games that already have English releases. So, I'm already playing other games that already have English releases. So, as for things I want to work on, honestly, I'm not that into anime nowadays. So, I don't really follow what's coming out, what's new. So, I don't really see any Japanese games that don't have English versions yet. So, I'm not really sure how I can best answer that question. I mean, personally speaking, my favorite game is Arknights, and it's already in English, so.
You can say Arknights, that's a valid answer.
Yeah,
This is already in English,
I know
right?
the hint that I might be leaving Bushiroad, but that's not in my plan for now.
Your managers will be like, whoa, we'll have a conversation here. What do you need to convince you to stay? Okay. If anyone else, or I want to add, maybe I want to build on a question that something you built on yesterday earlier, where you mentioned how when Google or Apple suddenly come in and be like, hey, like we want something now, or like how do you address those? Like, are you involved in like addressing those issues when like Apple or Google, like a third party, is trying to like overtake and be like, okay, we want this feature, and then obviously you have to work with the game, and the game might have issues. So how does that process work?
Well, I'm not very involved in the development side, and especially because if it's a global change, right, for requirements, right, that usually comes from Japan side. So Graphic will be the one that handles this whole thing, this negotiation with them when can they implement it. And from there, our devs or English devs also work with them on that. But it's not really something you can really negotiate on, because you are on Apple and Google's platform after all. So when you say it has to be done, it has to be done.
Yeah. So again, I don't think you'll be able to answer the question of, oh, this game doesn't work on Android anymore. I know for some of you might have some issues with the game on Android, but I don't think you really have.
Okay, so Android specifically, right, we are aware that a lot of players might still have issues with ever since I think maybe even last year December. So that's really a difficult question, because honestly, we have been trying to poke our devs to work on that, but at the same time, our devs don't really have the ability to replicate a lot of these issues, because I mean, we all know, iOS is just iPhones and iPads, that's easy because they have a very standard thing. But Android specifically, right, they look, every phone manufacturer has their own version of the Android OS. They make their own OS based on Android. So even though Android is a base, they all have their own adaptation of it. So across all these different OSs, right, it's kind of impossible for our devs to get every single phone out there and test out the game on every single one of them. So that would be the problem. They can't really replicate some of these issues. They can't, and that's why they have trouble addressing it up to now. So even though they try their best to make sure that the game is, working with the base version of Android, they really just can't account for all the different operating systems out there based on Android.
Okay, well, that's definitely reasonable. We'll have to again, for those who don't have the phone, have the game working on Android, just have to stay patient a bit longer, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully,
definitely still looking into the problem. It's just something that is very difficult for us to address at this point.
That's fair. Okay, good. Any other questions? Yep.
Do you plan the frequency of like meme tweets?
Okay, so frankly speaking on this one, when it comes to my mobile team, none of them are that in touch with online culture. So like our mobile team has like maybe like 8 members including the manager, and all of them are working on different games, or one of them is like for digital marketing and stuff. But we usually only have one producer for each game, and then me, I'm sort of like the sub producer or community manager for Bandry and Vivo DJ, and I'm the only one who comes up with these memes actually. So as for frequency of them, right, it's literally just when I think of something that's funny, because I start Twitter every day. It's kind of like I'm very connected to social media. So when I see a meme that we can leverage on, that's when I just try to jump in on that.
Just like no barriers from your employer, right? The Bushiroad's like, yeah, go ham.
I mean, at first they're a little bit hesitant, and we do get queries from the Japan side sometimes. They're asking us like, what is the meaning of this? Because these things just don't translate. And they're not very familiar with how like Western Twitter works. Western Twitter, corporate Twitter, like especially started with like Wendy's, being a lot more casual, more free, no holds bar, right? Just go all out. So Japanese Twitter, on the other hand, is super corporate.
For sure.
They're never casual. It's just straight up, always just corporate messages, ads and stuff. So they're a little bit hesitant, but they decided to leave the marketing for overseas to us.
Would you say that Sega, when their EN version, Twitter of Project Sekai, kind of also like you saw like how casual they were, and you're like, maybe I'll do that, or were you already kind of like working on those, like doing those memes before they did? Because I know EN Sekai, like they post a lot of memes. If you guys know, they post a lot of memes pretty often too. So I'm not sure if there's any influence from that, or maybe you were just like on a roll, like okay, I'm seeing memes and I'm posting them.
I think the one that really drew my attention was probably more Genshin, because Genshin I felt was more memey than Sekai. Even though I don't really consider Sekai's tweets to be very memey, they're more they're casual, but they're not meme.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair for sure. Okay, good. We have some questions from the Discord server. We have Joe who asks, Bandori Cafe collab when? That's literally just the 4 words.
I thought we had one for North America. I mean, okay, in Los Angeles, because that's where our US office is, so it's a lot easier to work with local partners.
Yeah.
I think we had one. I can't remember when that was. A couple of years ago.
Yeah. So I guess maybe the question is when to bring it back.
I'll check my US office on that one and see if we've got any interested business partners on that.
Okay, that's fair. I imagine like just on the side, right? Because you working with the Japanese kind of team, that's probably pretty easy because time zones are relatively similar and it's pretty easy to communicate with them.
Yeah.
But obviously with the US team, that's like more than half a day away, right? So like, does that become a little bit stressful or like difficult to work with them, like from a team that's like half a world away?
Well, there are issues with time zones definitely, but the bright side is that both my associate and me, we don't have very good boundaries for work-life balance. I mean, you see me on Discord at 2 a.m. Singapore time talking to people, right? So yeah, effectively the same thing. We just talk when we need to. The work, just make sure the work gets done and stuff. We're both very big fans of what we do, so
for sure
we're committed to it outside of our working hours.
It gives us a false sense, like, oh wow, Lucia's up at 2 a.m. That means the developers are also up at 2 a.m., right?
I think so. They really are. Unfortunately for them, yeah.
Oh no, that's unfortunate. So, all right, we have another question from Yvette's here. Yvette says something general election. So I'm guessing like how does that process work when you have to build a general election for Bandori? Like how do they decide what character like combinations go and like what's I guess the theme of each combination?
Okay, so for general elections, these are usually decided by the Japan side at first. But in English side, we do try and run our own spin on them. So I believe for the first few weeks, we did team up with Tokyo Takumo on that. We try and make things work out so we can actually have voting and stuff. But you have to build a site specifically just for the voting, right, and all that. So costs are involved in that, and whether it's worth it for the players. Because in the end, the players, they also want the Japanese content. They want the Japan winners, the songs, the costumes to be implemented into the English version, right? So at that point, you sort of ask, is it even worth running your own English version? You need to commission the new art for all these things as well. So we are trying to see if there's a balance. Where is it worth running the English ones, or should we just bring over the Japanese ones and call it a day from there? Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Again, for those who are unaware, general election in Bang Dream is when they sort of have like collaborations between like characters from a bunch of different bands, and then you put them together, and like you have things like Catastrophe Banquet, which is one of the songs for the RPG. That's the last one. So yeah, that's pretty interesting to see that there's a little bit, mostly planning from the JP, but we get a little bit of say on our side as well. Any questions? Any more questions from the room here? Yes.
What would you advise the overseas fandom to do if they, besides obviously spend money, they want to make things more successful?
Success-wise, definitely we'll continue spreading the word, I guess. Trying to get more players on board is always how any game will grow. You get more players, then with that, naturally you get a higher proportion of spending players from that. So to grow a game definitely is just getting more people interested in the game. Or you can send feedback to us, like what things you feel might draw more people in from there. Like what you think that what brought you into the franchise and how you might want to see the replicator to bring more people in, for example. So sharing those opinions with us definitely helps in our planning for what we can do to try and bring more people in.
Yeah, so promote, guys. Promote Bang Dream Girlsman Party and D4DJ to the world. Keep it alive. Okay. Anything else? I have a few questions as well. One thing, I don't know how much you're involved in this, Lucia, but sometimes when you have trying to bring the English server or game in there and from Japan, there's some issues with various songs and their copyright, and then some songs don't end up actually getting into the game. Some songs to this day, Shinai, I'm so sad, it's still not in the game. But other songs like CQ, I thought that was going to be a goner, like no way that's going to be into the game, and somehow you managed to like bring it in. So how does that process work, or if you know if you're in that process?
Okay, so song licensing is not something I handle directly for Bang Dream. I do handle it directly for D4DJ.
Okay.
Okay, when I say directly, it's more I manage what's done, what's not done by contact with the people licensing it. Because usually that's all done by the Japan office. They are the direct talkers, talk directly to the companies involved. But okay, licensing can be especially complicated for songs, because when you talk about global version, so in the Japanese version, right? Let's say they want to add a song, they call up the Japan office, the other licensor, and just ask, hey, I want to put your song in my game. How much do you want for it? So they come to an agreement. They want this much. You can use it for how many years? Okay, done, settled. Then we call and say, okay, hey, we want the same song for the global version. How much do you want for it? And they're like, okay, this is where it gets complicated. For North America, we sub-license it out to this other company, so you're gonna call them. Then we're like, okay, guess you're gonna make one call. Then they say, wait, for Europe, it's this other company. And we're like, okay, 2 calls then. Then they say, wait, but for Asia, we sub-license it out to this other company, who then sub-license it out to another company for Southeast Asia. And we're just like, you kidding me? There's a whole lot of calls I need to make now. So this business negotiations will take more time because you've got to call all these other partners and all of them want their cut, right? They all want a certain sum, and then you've got to agree how much is reasonable to bring it over the global version. Because for Japan, in the end, it's just one country. But for the global versions, it always spans the rest of the world, other than East Asia. So yeah, this is where it gets complicated.
Yeah, I noticed definitely in D4DJ where, again, it's not a thing in ENdori, which is, I guess, a little surprising, but in D4DJ, there's this instance where, song is added to the EN server, and then suddenly like, oh, actually, you now have a week before the song's gone. So I think that's when you mentioned how, like, you only have a certain amount of time where you have the license, and then you kind of have to remove the song from
license rights are generally speaking a certain amount plus royalty for a certain amount of time. So when the time expires, you sort of review again whether you want to have it again, or if it's just not that many people are playing a song, just remove it, I guess.
Good. One question I also want to ask, and this might be pretty relevant for many of you, when is Kero Expo coming back?
Everyone wants to know this answer.
I went to my first Kero Expo in 2019. Thought it was a blast. I almost died because of the lineups at 4 a.m. I actually almost legitimately died. But I almost because we were all running to like the lineups and like trying to get in, and the friend in front of me, I had a feeling there was something bad going on, so I went to the side as I was running, and he fell over and got trampled, and then I was just like, ouch. And I couldn't do anything to like save it because I was like, I have to go get Aina's autograph. So sorry, buddy, you're lost.
Did you get it?
No, I got Kudoharu's instead. But that's good. That's fine. Yeah. But Kudoharu is next. So that's why I want Kero Expo 2023. So any plans on that?
Okay, so I can't really share too much on this, but
sure.
I think definitely speaking, the situation is still kind of volatile right now.
Fair.
I think nobody wants to come to a point where everyone's still wearing masks and all these things. So I think we might still want to wait for things to die down a bit more, because all these things like vaccine checks and stuff, for a large scale con, it can get very complicated. I think you saw our stories at AX and stuff. It's just very complicated to run all these extra layers of security on top. So I think we might want to wait a bit more for the situation to die down and make sure everything's okay. Because even now, Japan, they still have a lot of troubles with COVID. So it's very difficult to fly people out.
For sure. I definitely understand. Even as we were approaching this year, I'm like, this is probably not going to happen. We'll have to see maybe next year, right? Again, Kero Expo in America usually happens in December. So, there's a whole year of planning and seeing how things go. So we'll see how things go as time comes. But definitely, Kero Expo would definitely be. It was definitely one of my favorite con experiences, just because everyone just very niche on what they like, and it's really easy to communicate. Although I think during Kero Expo 2019, probably one of the most difficult times was the fact that during that weekend, Discord was down.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Discord was down for the whole weekend, and I enjoyed it personally, because then instead of everyone on their phones, because people might be right beside each other and they're talking to each other on Discord, I'm just just talk in person, just interact with people. So everyone just had to forcefully talk verbally to each other, and I'm like, this is great, this is the best. But obviously, I think management-wise, it probably was a nightmare. Maybe.
Well, I mean, it's not like we communicate on Discord for management side.
People might be trying to complain, and you can't really see their complaints. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair. Obviously, the management side was all just talking over. I think we were using Google Hangouts at the time.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Yeah. But that was an interesting experience for sure. Yeah. Okay. So we're approaching a time limit soon, everyone. But does anyone have any other questions? Again, I've asked a lot.
How is it getting like a global server specific song into the game?
So you mean the English server, like original song?
Like blank blank meow and blank blank sakana.
Yeah, we can talk about the songs here.
Kind of both, I suppose.
So to get an English server original, usually speaking, we just have to speak to the licensor and ask them, how much. Same thing, we negotiate from the start how much you want for this to put the song into our game, and from there the trouble is, making the song tracks, because usually for making song tracks, that's done by Craft 8. But if you're doing it for English original, our English devs need to work on it, and honestly, we work with a very small team. Like I said, for our producer side, right, we only have one producer, one manager, and me. So for the devs, I don't think it's that much better. You can definitely got a few devs there, but they got hands full localizing the game over to the English version. So it can be hard for them to schedule time to outsource find people to make these tracks and stuff. So that's why the process takes a little bit longer. But from there, otherwise it's quite simple. I mean, we did have a couple of English originals to date, and so we're just seeing whether this process is worth it to bring in originals. Obviously, it is something we do want to do more of, and we are looking into that at the moment as well.
That kind of leads to the fact that like Menkitsune was added in the end first before JP. So that was probably a pretty interesting project where he somehow got Baby Metal to give the approval to like, okay, I guess we'll put in an EN server first before JP.
I was really surprised when that happened as well. I had no idea that was going to go out that way.
Well, there you go. We had some little freebies in the EN part. Any other questions?
I have a question just for me. Who is your favorite member of Telepathy World? You have to think about it.
Uh-oh.
There are.
I mean, it's definitely Misaki, right?
Good.
Eternal suffering is eternal suffering, right? It's just why I came with, I guess, in Decoy.
What about Pastel Palettes?
That's a tough one. Chisato, I guess? Chisato, definitely.
That's a good answer.
Poppin' Party, yeah.
Poppin' Party? Ariza?
Oh, all right.
Wow.
That's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting there.
Alright, who wins Passpare?
Pastel palettes.
Yeah, we said Chisato
Chisato.
for Pastel
okay.
Palette. Yeah, Pastel Palette. And then we already know Rosalia. That makes sense.
Afterglow.
I guess we're just gonna go through the whole list here.
Afterglow is Ran.
That's good. That's good. If
Tracks.
if you were better in that combo contest, I might have had a chance to win my Ron figure.
I actually had that before, but yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. Oh yeah, for those who aren't aware and those listening, Lucia's kind of awful at the game, so.
I haven't played the game since 2019? 2019.
Whenever the umbrella
No,
event.
the umbrella was the first one. I did the cooking class crazy
Oh,
one.
yeah,
So that was my last event.
Come back to rotate.
Yeah, I saw retired from the game, but even when I was actively playing, I was never that good at it. Rhythm games aren't really my forte. So like the max I can full combo is probably at 24 difficulty.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Your expertise goes to
I mean,
tower defense.
to be honest, when you get to my age, it's nothing is the way you want it to anymore.
Oh man, talking about age now, man.
Can you give you special freebies like 3 stars, exclusive titles?
I wish, right? But no, I have never gotten freebies on my side.
If you ask for it, you think they would.
If I ask for it, maybe, but I doesn't feel right to ask for it either. Because when I was still actively playing the game, right, I felt that I really wanted to get the same experience as the players to make sure that how much I'm paying, right, it's the same amount that the players are paying, to sort of understand how much they're paying and whether that balance works out for the players.
That makes sense.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
Suffer along everyone, right?
Yeah.
What happened during the Gura stream with the mysterious
Oh,
happy Kokoro
The
card?
off attribute
The off
Kokoro.
attribute, like
It was the Taiko Kokoro,
The Taiko
but
Kokoro
she was
was
the
happy
wrong.
element.
Yeah, she was the wrong attribute
That's
in
weird.
Gura's stream when she pulled it. It was like it's supposed to be
it's
cool,
supposed to
right?
be cool.
But her card was happy.
That was a long time ago. I really don't remember exactly what happened. Maybe she had a developer's build. Maybe that's why something went wrong
that's
there.
what I figured.
So that event, Beating in the Rain, was supposed to be a happy event, and they changed it to cool, maybe.
No, it was like Gura was streaming, right?
Yeah.
She's
And
really
when
young
she,
behind,
she
so.
did the gacha,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she got Taiko Kokoro, but it was the wrong attribute.
Yeah, So I was saying that maybe like in the initial developments of Beating in the Rain, it might have been happy, and then they're like, actually, let's make it cool. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
It's one of those things that I'll never know the answer to, really.
That was a weird stream because, like, again, it was also like it kind of felt a little bit restrictive too, because it's like, oh, she could only play songs for like, I think specifically from Bushiroad, because obviously cover songs.
Copyright is a very complicated issue. Yeah.
It was an interesting stream, but it was cool that, like, you know, you're able to sort of get involved with VTubers and slowly grow. And I guess that leads to another question, like, you know, it seems like Bushiroad's really pushing in the direction towards VTubers. They have like new band, they were like getting auditions for like, you know, bringing VTubers in. So what was that? Like, I don't know if you know like what sort of made Bushiroad go into that direction.
Honestly, I'm not very aware of how the negotiations for that went on from the Japanese side, but I mean, obviously, you know, we have a very close working partnership with Cover, and so maybe that traded tips, or, you know, understood better on how they can try to push in this direction. Yeah. Because in the end, if you look at it, the current fan base is all pivoting towards VTubers. It's inevitable that, you know, you try and capture some of the audience back into live content.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's really cool to see that so many VTubers are like kind of like interacting and sort of getting involved in the promotion. There's Gura, and there's also Yuna as well, like a little smaller, of course, smaller scale, but still very, very cool to see. And then, you know, now we're having like all these VTubers like coming in. There's one for D4DJ as well. I think it was Iris that did D4DJ.
Yeah, Iris and
Ina did D4DJ. Well, that's cool. That's definitely really cool. We have. Okay, so going back to a question that was asked earlier, or at least we built on earlier. This is from Steve. How about, so like, what happened with like the English version of Legendary and the English version of Hey, Excellent, Hey, Let's Go? Like, how did that process come in, and then eventually, you know, get into the game?
Okay, so for that one, right, the song was already recorded for the openings for the anime. So back then we were trying to push this anime in Singapore, and we had to put the opening song in English. So they wrote and recorded a specific version of it just for that. And because, you know, it already existed in English, right? So why not just bring it over? And then you didn't have to do anything to, you know, make a new chart. You just need to make sure the song is of the same length, and then the same chart, just put it in there. So it was a much simpler process than anything else.
Although Hey, Excellent, Hey, Let's Go, is slightly different. The map in the EN version and the actual like Japanese version is actually slightly different. The Japanese version is longer, so probably have to do some.
You have editing here and there. Yeah. It's a lot simpler than making a whole new track.
Oh yeah, for sure. Good. All right. Any last questions? No? Okay, I want to ask one more question to you, Lucia. What is your favorite part of working in Bushiroad?
Definitely it's the interacting with fans, I would say, because you really meet the most passionate fans who really put in all their time into like talking about the product and stuff, right? They're really passionate about the characters and stuff, and because I also like the characters, right? So for me to read through everyone's tweets and then, you know, sort of, it helps me understand the characters better in a way as well. So I really like interacting with all the fans and seeing their thoughts on the project, and it helps me align with what we should be doing as well to try and, you know, make as many people as happy as possible, I guess. Because in the end, really, you know, we are a content company. We're making content for everyone. We do love seeing fans being happy.
For sure. Well, that's good. So again, Lucia, it was a great pleasure to have you in this panel today, and thank you again to everyone who joined this panel, asked some questions, and of course to everyone listening live on Discord, and of course eventually on our podcast platforms for the RePHIL Studio. Definitely thank you all for listening. I'm gonna do my usual like outro thing, so don't mind me. So the set has been complete. Make sure you get your cans ready and refill on our next set. Ready to refill the 9-9 because that's what we always do. And we'll see you all next time. So again, Lucia, thank you very much for having this panel here.
Thank you very much for having me here.